Boy, what a pleasure to see you guys. It's late in the day and the spirit is still high. I love that. You guys, the stomachs have not started growling yet. You guys are ready to do some good jobs, green jobs. Is that right? I love it. I love it. Well, the operative phrase is jobs, good jobs, green jobs. And I think it's important to talk about innovation and all that stuff. And it's great that we're in a good conversation with management and business. That's awesome. But guess what? It's about jobs, folks. It's about economic viability and prosperity for Americans. It means that we have to keep in mind that the overarching idea is to live sustainably and live prosperously for working people. Working people. And so I'm going to take a step back in order to take a step forward and talk about the larger economic frame we find ourselves in, and then what sustainable economy does to get us to the right place. I mean, the place we're in right now, folks, is we're in a spot right now where for 3 decades we've seen people having stagnant wages, green or otherwise. We've seen since 2008, our economy has created wealth. 93% of that wealth has gone to the top 1%. What I'm telling you is that in 1976, we passed the Humphrey Hawkins full employment bill. And it was a national disgrace, and an offense that our unemployment rate was about 6.3%. It was like, my goodness, how could it be this high so long? Well, we're down to 7.7, and we're happy to have that. Only problem is that most of that is driven by our plummeting labor participation rate. So yes, absolutely green jobs, but don't forget about that part of good jobs. We got to get America back to work so we have any jobs. And that is what I hope drives much of our conversation today. As I said before, the fact is that over the last 30 years, the average American has not really made a dime more. And while the richest 1% have seen their incomes triple to over $1 million, they're making money. And it isn't just income inequality that I'm talking about to you today. It is not just the fact that working people are struggling to stay the same, and the rich are doing so much better. It's that the institutions that have been the ladders of opportunity are actually under assault, like the post office. I hope you plug into what happened to the post office in 2006 and how this drive to privatize it is going on right now. But not just that. We just had a big vote last week on the National Labor Relations Board and how they want to hamstrung and stymie that so that workers have no rights on the job and nowhere to go to if their rights are violated. I want you to think about the assault on Social Security and how the Progressive Caucus is leading the way to stand up against the chain CPI and stand for Social Security. And so what I'm saying is that is the larger frame of this conversation. And by the way, it's not just income inequality that we're talking about, and it's not just the assault on institutions that have represented a ladder of opportunity up. It's even bigger than that, because with this money that is concentrating at the top, it's not just that, folks can run out of the houses they can buy and the planes they can get and the boats they can ski behind. At some point, you run out of the consumer goods that this world may have to offer, and you start buying other things, like political influence. And then you might go and say, well, you know what? I need a tax loophole. No, I need two. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to back people who think I should get one. I'm going to back candidates who believe that if only rich people had more money, then we'd all be better off. They would take care of us, right? They'd hire us. They wouldn't offshore our jobs, right? They'd look out for us. Yeah, right. The bottom line is, I hope Good Jobs, Green Jobs movement always retains jobs and the rights of workers at the very heart and soul of the movement, and always make sure that sustainability and breathability for working people always stays at the very center of what we're doing. You know, the fact is that green jobs are a game changer. They are a way to stop offshoring of American jobs. Investing in American infrastructure is the way to go. It's not only just a good idea for the individual family to have a good, sustainable, high-paying job with good benefits, but it's good for our macroeconomy when working people have money in their pockets. I mean, even the wealthiest of our country would do even better if we had more shared prosperity. And, of course, we know we do better. But the gap, again, is widening, and we can use this green jobs movement as a game changer. By encouraging investments in clean energy, instead of continuing to hand out over $100 billion in polluter welfare every 10 years, we can shift our economy from a polluter economy to a sustainable economy. That's why me and Bernie Sanders, who was one of the founding members of the Progressive Caucus, came up with the End Polluter Welfare Act, which closes loopholes for industries that are fossil fuel-based industries that really are quite profitable right now and don't need our money. We actually subsidize the fossil fuel industry far more than we do wind, solar, and other cutting-edge technology industries that have a lot of promise for jobs that we can have right here in America. We should reverse those incentives and put the money into the green economy, not just the fossil fuel one. And how about the simple money-saving investment in buildings with more that are more energy efficient? Residential, commercial, industrial, and public buildings account for more than 70% of the energy we consume. What about the public investment to make these buildings more energy efficient? You can't offshore that job, not to fix this building. This is a good thing, and we should make, and our legislation and our public policy should direct us toward those investments. But you know what? The efficiency investments also pay for themselves. For every dollar we spend making buildings more energy efficient, we get $2 in savings. At least that's what the economists tell us. And so let me just tell you a success story. Sometimes things go right, and we should say so. Company headquartered in my district, Honeywell, recently teamed up with the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority on a $33.6 million energy efficient retrofit program. The Honeywell was able to save Housing Authority more than $3.7 million in utility costs per year, and the project also put 250 tradespeople to work doing everything from replacing old inefficient boilers to weather stripping to sealing doors and windows. Not only did they put American workers back to work, Minnesotans back to work, they made public housing residents a lot warmer we still got snow on the ground in Minnesota, you guys. So that's important where I come from. So these projects benefit the people in the private sector, they benefit workers, they benefit the environment, the whole community. And many of you rightly see that climate change is one of our greatest issues confronting it. In fact, I was at a meeting recently when I said, you know what, the defining issue of our time is income inequality. A friend quickly added, he said, no, Keith, you're wrong. It's actually climate change that is the most important issue of our time. If this climate changes to the point where we can't live on this planet, it really doesn't matter what the income distribution is. But then being the pugnacious, argumentative person that I am, I said, well, what is the biggest barrier to getting real climate legislation? Politics. What's the barrier there? Concentrated money. So then we get back to the need to address income inequality, which leads to wealth concentration, which leads to buying political influence, which leads to a stymieing, is that a word? A stopping of our ability to get good climate legislation in place and align our public policy and our legislation with our sustainable economy. So I see the greatest barrier to getting good climate legislation and sustainable legislation passed through Congress. I see the biggest obstacle is money. In 2012, 61 large super PAC donors gave as much as 1.4 million grassroots donors. So let me say that again. In 2012, 61, there's probably 61 people on this side of the room. Large super PAC donors gave as much as 1.4 million grassroots donors. You follow that? Okay, do I need to say, I'm going to say it one more time. So, 61 people gave as much money as 1.4 million grassroots donors. Now, you might think, oh my God, we're in trouble. 61 people can weigh as much in terms of money in politics as a 1.4 million. But guess what? It's still not the case in America that a dollar gives you a vote. You still got to be a person to vote, and the corporations don't count. Which means our superior numbers outweigh their superior dollars. Our superior numbers, 1.4 million people, small donors, actually is more effective than those 61 big super donors because we don't have to use money to and hope that it transmits into votes. We can just go vote ourselves. This is awesome power in our hands. Awesome power. And to deal with that income inequality, which translates into political influence, we have to have a remedy. And that remedy has got to be organizing on the ground. That remedy has got to be organizing on the ground. But it's hard to organize if you don't have the right message. And good jobs, green jobs is the right message. Earn a paycheck and breathe. That's a winner. I think that's a winning combination right there. You know, it's time to make sure that maybe that single mom living in Minneapolis or Peoria, Illinois, or Stockton, California, can know that, you know, her baby who she has to take to an emergency room at night, struggling with an asthma attack, right? It's time to get her to see herself as an environmentalist and a person who's striving for a good economy that's fair to her and her family. It's time to make sure that that construction worker who may have lost her job, you know, after the money from the recovery dried up, understand that climate change is her problem too. And it's time to make sure that that veteran who earned the construction skills necessary to retrofit buildings, but is still looking for work, know that climate change is also her problem. It's time, in other words, to break out of the bonds of the people who tend to be aware of problems like this and go door to door, block to block, and organize Americans wholesale around the green jobs, good jobs theme. I know many of you are doing that. I want to let you know I commend you for that. But let me tell you, it's just like my son said. You know, my son wanted to be a first team basketball team, right? And he said, you know, Dad, after practice, I go shoot an extra 5 baskets every practice. I said, well, how many do the kids on the starting team shoot? Oh, they shoot like 50 or 60. I said, I figured out your problem, son. It's not that you're doing the wrong thing. We just got to do a lot more of the right thing. You understand what I'm saying? We got to do a lot more of the right thing. And the right thing is organizing people all over this country. And that's why I want to let you know that the Progressive Caucus, we're going to go on another job tour. 2 years ago, we had a job tour. We're going to do another job tour. And we're focusing on cities that have under 100,000 people. We want people to know that the Progressive Caucus is not just some big city movement, not just some, big towns. We want folks to know in the rural America, in white America, in Latino America, black America, we want people, straight, gay, people who are in all walks of life to know that a message of sustainability and economic opportunity is for them. So we're taking it on the road. And so we want to thank you guys for all that you're doing. It's an honor to be here with you. But organizing is the key, and you already got the right message. Thank you so much.